Yes, welcome to the No State Project. I am Mark Stevens. It's January 18th, 2013. We're here live every Saturday from the fortified compound here in Phoenix, Arizona on LRN.FM. It's LRN.FM, Liberty Radio Network, and I'm glad to be with you. It's been a big week. Didn't get as much done as I would have liked, of course, but that tends to happen. But I did get the article posted that I talked about on the show last week about the criminals at the Washington Department of Revenue. Yes, they are criminals. So we can see, well, you probably can. Yeah, the Department of Revenue, they decided that they were going to send me the decision that, yes, they did vote against us. So there is a big, so there's a big shock there. That's part of the, we're going to be taking your calls here today on the No State Project, but I want Helen to just hang on just a moment. They got some good news for us, and Eyal in Israel, kind of a real international, intercontinental show today. A lot of success, not so much success that we'll be reporting here on the show. We already have a full boat of calls, I believe. Yes, we're already got a full boat of calls, and we got some people joining us on some of this other software. Because I do not have the damn Skype issue taken care of, but you can still Skype me during the show. It is Frank Rizzo 3. It's Frank Rizzo with the number 3. And if you have any questions or comments about anything that's on the show or in the video, let me know. You could just give us a call, or you can Skype me, and we'll put you into the No State Project chat. The thing about the video is I did an intro, which is about 5 minutes long. I actually was doing it before the show started. It's taken quite a while to actually process, but it should be just about done. If you go to markstevens.net and you go to the actual page, you should be able to get that video. Unfortunately, I found out the hard way that even though I got a HD video cam, webcam, when I recorded, for some reason, I decided I had it recorded on a different computer. It was a Windows machine. This thing only records in Windows Media Video, which is garbage. And unfortunately, there was a real problem with the original file. So I have very good audio, which I've already posted. And we've already got a number of comments for that. Okay, but I just got, so if you go to markstevens.net, go into the most recent article, of course, and I now have the video. So unfortunately, you get the 5-minute intro where I'm talking about these criminals, Janine Purrington and Frank Fulton of the Washington Department of Revenue. And then it goes into just, unfortunately, the audio. But you can go see that on my website or go to YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/No State Project, and you can check that out. So we got a ton of stuff to get to today. We've already got callers on, so I wanted to do that. So let's see what we can do. I want to bring up, do we have Helen on? I thought we had Helen on. Okay, well, we will try to get Helen back on. Till then, we will go to the calls. Looks like we have a new caller. We have area code 415. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Robert. I'm out here in California.
Robert, California. What do you have for us today? Did we lose Robert now? Hello, Robert.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. Okay.
What do you have today?
Well, anyways, I had a ticket where I had to deal with the and it was in a federal park, and I've already taken care of it. But the what happened was I ended up paying the ticket. But instead of it being a fine, the U.S. attorney told me that it was forfeiture of collateral. And then when I asked him, well, what does that mean? He said, I don't know. So I was wondering if you had ever heard of forfeiture of collateral.
I have. I would imagine it has to do with something that was put up to, let's say they grabbed something from you when they first gave you the ticket, like they took your car, and they want the car as a forfeiture. Yeah. Did they take your car?
Really? Well, No, what they did is they took my mountain bike.
They took your bike.
Because I was committing the crime of riding a mountain bike on a dirt road.
A mountain bike on a dirt road, and you had the nerve to call my show.
Yeah.
What?
So they gave me 3 tickets. They gave me 3 tickets. One of them was for interference. So when I went in, I got the interference dismissed.
Okay.
Right, and so I decided I thought about just fighting the whole thing, but to tell you the truth, these people really just gave me the creeps. I just wanted to get as far away from them as possible. I mean, if it would have been state or local, I might have gone for it, but I'm like, these people are playing hardball, they had lied to me so many times and gaslighted me so many times. But what happened with my bike was that I told them, look, you don't have the right to take my property. And I showed up at 9 in the morning the next morning and say, hey, give me my property. It's not yours. You're basically stealing it, So they gave me my bike back, actually.
Oh, thank goodness.
Because I put so much pressure on them. I put so much pressure on them. I'm like, look,
okay,
you can't be doing this. So,
okay, so where does it stand now, though? I mean, if the only thing they took for collateral was to steal the bicycle and they have it back, what's going on now?
I'm wondering why. I paid $350. I ended up paying $350 as forfeiture of collateral. And when I asked him, well, what does that mean? He says, I don't know. So I'm thinking, could I go back in there and say, hey, I didn't know the nature and cause of what I'm paying.
Oh, you also didn't? Did you have any evidence of jurisdiction?
Yeah, I didn't even want to go into that because I was actually just afraid of these people.
Understandably,
doing violence,
understandably so. However, the question still is, if you're going to try to get this resolved now, was there any evidence of jurisdiction presented before?
No.
Okay, so that would be a pretty significant ground. Did they call this a civil proceeding, or was this a criminal in nature?
Well, it's federal, so it's kind of weird. It's like they don't really have infractions, apparently, in their little federal world or whatever. So, I think they viewed it as criminal, actually.
They viewed it as criminal. Wow.
I believe so. I mean, I'm not sure about that.
Well, did you have to do an arraignment?
Well, yeah, I went into basically it wasn't a trial. It was like a pretrial thing where you just sit down with the U.S. attorney and hash it out. So,
but did you have an
I talked to them on the phone. I'm sorry?
Did you have an initial appearance where you appeared in front of a judge and had to say guilty or not guilty?
No, I just went in front of I just dealt with the U.S. attorney only.
It's hard to say.
So
I guess I'd have to look
I'd
have to look the offense up. I mean, this is horrible. A bike on a dirt road sounds more like a sexual euphemism to me.
Yeah. It was literally like 20 yards away from where his vehicle was parked on the same road. So he can park his vehicle there, but I'm obviously just destroying the wilderness.
Well, a bike on the dirt road. Yeah, that's pretty bad because there's. Because that's where the Al-Qaeda starts. It's like a gateway thing. First, you start putting your bike on the dirt road. The next thing you know, you're being accused of flying planes into buildings, and you're wrapping bombs around you and screaming Allah Akbar or whatever they claim that these so-called suicide bombers are doing. Hold on, we are up against a break. We'll finish this on the other side. This is the January 18th edition of the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We're talking about the heinous crime of a mountain bike on a dirt road. So it must have been a slow news day that day. My name is Marc Stevens again. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment, taking your calls at 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land. This is January 18th, 2014. We're here on LRN.FM, which we're here every Saturday live here in the Fortified Compound in Phoenix, Arizona. You want to join the show, it's 218-632-9399. We got a full boat right now, so we got a lot to get to. So just hold tight. We'll get to everybody, and then I'll announce again. But we're talking with Rob in California, who committed the incredibly dangerous crime of riding a bike on a dirt road. That's the United States. Welcome to the to the United States, everybody. Where riding a bike on a dirt road is enough to get you charged with a crime. It is a crime. So. All right, welcome back, Rob. So where do we sit with this now? You want to challenge us and get this overturned? Did you enter some kind of plea just to make it go away, and then had to pay $350?
Since he gave me 3 tickets, one of them was for interference because I dared to stand up for my rights to to this officer who was a complete thug.
Well, a cop is synonymous with thug.
Yeah. And he told me, he said, put your bike over there and sit on the ground. And I go, well, what authority do you have to make me sit on the ground? And then it became very clear that I was going to get my brains bashed out if I didn't. So I didn't want to like cower on the ground like a slave, but I'm like, well, I either do that. I mean, this is like basically running into the Crips and the Bloods out here. So.
Well, it's a very, it was something that was a phrase coined a while ago. Is "Welcome to the plantation, everybody." As Russell Means, the late Russell Means said, "Welcome to the reservation, everybody." Now you know what my people have gone through 450 years or so. So, as long as we've got this gang of killers, thieves, and liars, well, you either do what they tell you or you get shot. But what did he do specifically leads you to believe you're going to get your head bashed in? I mean, was the hand on the gun or a nightstick? I mean. How did he say something? Did he give you a particular look that said, I'll just sit down, not a good day to die?
Yeah, he was bowing up to me big time and letting me know he was armed and
Okay, so you get these tickets. But what happens at the courthouse? I mean, what happens now that you go to the federal court and you speak with the prosecutor, you decide that you just want to pay a fine and have this go away. You didn't have a trial, right? You just you just paid the $350 and
no, I didn't have a trial. And he said I go, well, look, I want this all dismissed. And he goes, well, we're not going to do that. And I said, well, I want the interference dismissed because I did not interfere. Because when you look up that statute, it's still doing all this crazy stuff, which I never did. All I did was question his authority. I guess questioning their authority is interference, according to them. So.
Well, it's like if you see the video, the article that I did, you can see my awesome Photoshop skills when I add a text to that picture of the cow, and it is I am jurisdiction, and thou shalt not challenge. And when you listen, anytime you get into a discussion with these people, the issue of jurisdiction is very much a sacred cow. I mean, you're an American, America, jurisdiction, of course, the government, and it's a blasphemy. It is. It's considered. Why else would they?
It means speak the law, right?
I'm sorry.
I mean, jurisdiction literally means speak law. Juris and diction means speak. So it means I said so is what jurisdiction means.
That's what it comes down.
All it means is I said so.
And we actually have on video. We got some video.
In Latin.
Yeah, in Tempe, we have jurisdiction because we said so. The gun says so. This is this is more evidence that I was able to post. And anyone, I urge everybody, listen to this call. Critique it, be as brutally objective and honest as you can be, because if I could have done better, I'm open to that. But it was an example of how these people are so desperate to not discuss the issue of jurisdiction and how their laws actually apply to us. It's like Marc and Rose did a video years ago about he just takes a piece of paper and he writes, "I'm allowed to rob you," which is essentially what the Constitution says when they say that they have the right to tax. So you pay the fine. And now you want to go back and you want to get that reversed. You want to get it all thrown out, and right. So I guess the jurisdiction may be challenged.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because when I ask him, well, what is forfeiture of collateral? He says I don't know. But this is also an attorney who told me I don't have a right to to swear an affidavit. When I said, well, I might swear an affidavit here, he said, well, you don't have the right to do that. And I just laughed at him like, of course I have the right.
But you know, Rob, not for nothing, you don't have a burden of proof. I mean, it's very, you don't, not that you have a right, I don't think you have any rights. You know, I think you have autonomy and it's right for you to do certain things, but legal right, they don't exist. They're a figment of the imagination. They don't exist at all. But you are in a situation where someone is attacking you and they're making accusations, and logic dictates, and even their own code, their own little procedures there, the one who makes the accusation bears the burden of proof. So you don't have to present an affidavit of anything. So if you're focused on strictly, let's say, jurisdiction and a valid cause of action, and that they had to have, and necessary for jurisdiction, obviously, is there has to be a true adversary against you. And contrary to popular opinion with these exalted, honorable esquires, these lawyers, something does not become adversarial because you make an accusation and somebody disagrees with you. Well, obviously he's an adversary. He disagrees with me. That's not what it means at all. So you very well can file to vacate this decision, you know, the plea and the judgment based on a lack of jurisdiction. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going, and I don't really want to go into their building again, but I mean,
you may not have to.
$350 is a lot of money. I mean.
Yeah, you know, you get it started initially in writing, you know, but you know, if it's a matter of principle, hey, I can sit here in the comfort of my own fortified compound and get on the phone with these guys. It still, to a degree, makes my skin crawl that I got to deal with these people. But you know, hey, it's a matter of principle. We need to stand up for these. You know, hey, I didn't want to sit in that gallery with the Tempe City Council. It was everything I could do to just get up and walk out of there. But I had a job to do. So it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not a big deal. So if you got to go, hey, look at it this way. You get the opportunity to take somebody with an advanced university degree, somebody who claims to be an expert in litigation, what he does, and you can tear him apart in just a few minutes by sticking to the evidence. All you want to do is have them verify for you their argument. You know, they've got the argument. See, that's up here. The facts are what, you know, keep the, you know, that's what the foundation is of an argument, is the fact. And he's not going to have anything like that. What evidence would he possibly have to show that the Constitution laws apply? And where is his witness with personal firsthand knowledge of that? So, and that's the way I would take it. A motion to vacate and dismiss based on a lack of evidence proving jurisdiction, and of course you didn't. So
even though I paid
well,
it.
Hold
already?
on just a second. We'll finish up in the next segment with that. Write your question down. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back with your calls in just a few moments. Don't go away. Edition of the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. And we're not going to be taking calls. We are taking calls today, but we're not going to give out the number or anything because we've got a full boat, of course. And I do appreciate everyone tuning in here today. And she's returning to the show. She's been on before. She is the one that got a 900-pound award on a traffic ticket in England. So welcome back to the show, Helen.
Hi, Mark.
Well,
I'm not really here about me today. I've got a group of people with me. We've been doing a legal workshop this afternoon with Peter, Fabris has been his Mackenzie friend, and so has Vin. And I was the media rep in his appeal case. And it was quite an interesting one, and it's been adjourned for now, and we've been working on some paperwork, so we thought it might be a good one to update you on.
Right, and so what's the nature of the charge against him?
It's a traffic offence. I think it was 46 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. So he's a real criminal, is Peter. Yeah. But without enough support, really, and they refused to give him when he requested to ask questions about the nature and cause of the proceedings. The magistrates told him they weren't there to answer his questions and they wouldn't be answering them. He'd requested for any witnesses to give oral evidence against him. The prosecution entered a written statement from the witness. He objected. They overruled him and entered the written statement, and then he was convicted and given a £180 fine and 3 endorsement points on his licence. So we figured out that was worth an appeal, and went to the appeal on the 3rd of January with him. Fabrice is here with me. I might let him run you through that quickly, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Okay, so we started the appeal process, and before we got in, Peter realised that he'd recognised the prosecutor previously. So that was an issue that we had to resolve, and also that they turned up with 2 witnesses. Up until that point, we'd only been aware of one witness who'd given a written statement, and of course, Peter had asked repeatedly for any and all witnesses with personal first-hand knowledge of the facts to attend, so that he can question them on their competence and credibility and the veracity of their witness statements.
Okay, and you guys has Peter been doing this the same as what Helen did, where you're asking for evidence proving the Constitution and laws of the realm applied just because you were physically in England, and a witness with personal knowledge of that?
Yes, that's correct, Mark.
Okay.
I'm Peter. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Peter. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
I had, as Fabrice says, personal knowledge of the barrister, and I made the court aware, and they adjourned the bench, went outside to make a decision. They came back and ruled in my favour, because I did object to him being a prosecutor, and they set a date for the 14th of February.
And in the process, Mark, they also the prosecutor also disclosed the nature of the previous contact he'd had with Peter, which meant the whole bench had to be recused for having too much knowledge.
Wow.
So we're going to have a new bench and a new prosecutor. And of course, Peter did a very, very good job. They were trying to, not just railroad him, but they were trying to affect his confidence in Vin and myself by saying that we were giving him bad advice, and that what he really needed to do was go to an administrative court if he wanted to question the law. And of course, for people who are professionally trained, it took a long time to understand that it wasn't a matter of law, but it was a matter of evidence of the applicability of the law.
Right.
The judge refused to rule on the matters of disclosure and asked for Peter to put them in writing. And today we've put together a chronology, which is quite damning reading. And in conjunction with the criminal procedure rules, which are the rules that they're supposed to follow in terms of disclosure and in terms of following the procedure to the overriding purpose, which is getting a fair trial and all the other things that they say you're entitled to. So we're going to put in an abusive process hearing in the same method that Helen had. Because what we're finding is that by asking the questions that you ask and that you outline in Adventures in Legal Land very, very clearly, that those challenges, what they seem to do here is bend the rules and break the rules to avoid answering those questions. And so as soon as they do that, you have to say, okay, you said you were going to abide by the criminal justice procedure. Here is the criminal justice procedure. Have you abided by it? And file that in the form of an abusive process statement. And then hopefully that's enough leverage for them to leave you alone.
Yeah, well, they did with Helen. So there is some success with that so far. Yes, they dragged you through nine some odd hearings. Yes, however, there is some success, and if you, it would be great if we get something in writing. If you, you don't have to, if you could, scan a copy of the check so that we could see that.
I'm still trying to get them to pay me, Mark. At the moment, they're making me fill out all these different forms before they give me any money.
They probably want you to file tax forms.
Off to you anyway, because
Yeah, but it was very interesting, Mark, in terms of, again, we had a great team of support, and Peter was really very, very cool. They were, as I said, they were trying to mock him and make him think that he was receiving bad advice. And actually, at one point, after the judge had left, the legal clerk stood up and was some of the most outrageous behaviour I've ever seen in a courtroom. She stood up and she started shouting, screaming at Vin, myself and Peter, saying that we don't object, and when we are addressing the court, we stand up, and that we're not on the BBC, whatever that is.
Wow!
And it's not some drama, and was virtually foaming at the mouth. And for a mid-20s something who's got aspirations to be a school teacher of some nature or description, she was really very, very over the top. And as I said, following from Peter's lead, Vin and I were, as usual, very respectful and well turned out. And we gently asked her if she'd finished, and we walked towards the edge of the courtroom, whereby Helen, who'd been taking notes very quietly, looking very, very smart in the public gallery, caught my eye, quick nod, and Helen walked over to the legal clerk. And
I just asked her for her name.
Helen just asked her for her name, and her whole demeanour. Yeah. Would you like to have name?
She asked me for my name. I asked her for her name, and I had my notepad, and she asked me who I was, and I said I was the media rep for this case, and she refused to give me her name. I said, I don't think you're able to refuse to give me your name, are you? And she looked around at the others for support, and everyone around her had gone very quiet. And then she gave me her first name, and I said, can I have your full name? And she said, no. I said, is Mr. Gilbert entitled to your full name?
Well, Helen, just hold on a second. We're going to get back to just hold. Oh no, Helen, just hold on. We're up against the break. We'll go back. We'll continue this in the next segment. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to the No Stay Project. Not only is asking for evidence something that these people don't want to address, they don't even like giving their names because, criminals, they want to go out and veil of secrecy. We'll be back here on the No Stay Project in just a few moments. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land. It is January 18th, 2014, and we are on LRN.FM, of course, live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, right before Free Talk Live. And we'll be taking your calls today. However, we got a full boat. I appreciate everyone's patience. We're going to get to everybody. We got a lot of stuff to get to. We're going to also have an update with Eyal from Israel, No Stay Project Israel, which you're going to want to stay around for that. Well, we're talking with Helen, Fabrice, and Peter, and they're in England. And they were had someone get very nasty with them and say, this isn't the BBC. Yeah, and I didn't think this was an insane asylum, but here we are. So, but welcome back. Helen, Fabrice, and Peter.
Hey.
All right, so let's get back into this. So she's given you a problem giving the name.
Yeah, so we just leave it. I just write it all down, that she's saying that she's refusing, and then I go back and sit down. And I came out and joined you guys, and then we got called back in.
We get called back in for the decision on whether the prosecutor is going to be removed from the case. And when we go back in, the legal clerk is a lot more contrite. I think she was a little bit embarrassed because the way Helen was, she looked very professional, taking notes very diligently. She could very well have been a newspaper editor from The Guardian doing a piece on litigants in person, as legal aid has been stopped here. So that kept them on their toes a bit. And after he said that we can't proceed any further here and it's going to be adjourned until 14th of February, the prosecutor tried to sort of come and intimidate or misinform Peter further. He came up and said that he should have been in an administrative court to question whether the law was functional, and he spoke to Peter for a minute or so and was quite pushy. And then at the end, I turned around and said to him that actually it's not an issue of the law that Peter has a problem with. It's the fact that you produced no evidence that the law is applicable to Peter. And with that, he was quite dismissive and said, "You've got all the evidence." And then Helen, as the media rep, pitched up and asked, "Well, Peter's asked for evidence on a few occasions, as far as the records show.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say?" The prosecutor then turned to Helen and said, "Who are you?" And Helen replied, "Well, I'm a media rep on this case." And he said, I don't talk to the media," and proceeded to walk out. So we picked up our papers and we left while this prosecutor was muttering underneath his breath like a fixated alcoholic. And as we were walking out of the courtroom, he raised his voice and shouted after us, "The media won't help you, the media won't help you." And, as far as I can gather, that's not a usual behaviour from a professional doctor of law. So all I can imagine was that the hearing didn't go according to plan, and that not only was the clerk of the court a little rattled, but the prosecutor too.
Well, I just want to mention, too, this ridiculous behavior by them. I mean, you're dealing with 5-year-olds with guns. I mean, they're in adult bodies. But, just to mention to those who may not be aware or know that we call it a gaslight technique, what they're doing, we're trying to make him, you got to get out. Like they say to me, I suggest you go get a real lawyer. Or they'll say to the client, I suggest you get a real lawyer. It's like, stop it. I'm not pretending to be a lawyer. There's no pretend here. I'm not holding myself out as a lawyer. But anyway, the gaslighting comes from a 1940 or a 1940 movie, 41 movie that was made in England the first time, Gaslight. Okay, so the prosecutor is doing these lame things, and so how does it end?
Well, that was how it ended. How it stands now is that what we've done since then is compiled a chronology as that puts all the paper trail, all the telephone calls, all the requests for communication that we've made, the responses we've had. They're all laid out there, and we're going to send a copy to the court and the Crown Prosecution Service, so they will have time, if they want to, if they take any issue with anything in that chronology, they will have time to respond to it before the next hearing. And because we have a written note from the clerk of the court saying to Peter that he can expect full any further disclosure before the trial, which obviously he didn't receive. So we're going to put that in an abusive process argument and request that the court hear that before the appeal proceeds any further.
Oh, okay. Someone, Matthew, in down in Queen. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that Matthew in Queensland, Australia, was saying that in response to when this psycho snapped at you that the media won't help you, you should get to come back with, yeah, well, if I could afford a judge, I'd do it your way. Wow, nice. So let me ask you: have you guys had any face-to-face meetings with the prosecutor or the police, and to ask them in person or maybe on the phone for the evidence they have showing that the code applies and that there's any jurisdiction over you?
What you mean in relation to this case, or generally?
Well, in this particular case with Peter.
Because if you...
Yeah, there is phone calls, no face-to-face. They won't do that here at all. There is phone calls, and in the phone calls they've stated that they don't have to provide any evidence of jurisdiction or applicability of the Road Traffic Act.
Well, I think even in England, they do have to prove jurisdiction before they can get in the door. I mean, that's a foundational principle. It's not something the Americans or the Canadians just kind of came up on their own. I mean, they may say that.
What they try to do is they try and get the court to take judicial notice.
They say the court's bound ex officio to take official notice that they have jurisdiction, and that's what they'll do. And they take that as an excuse for them not to feel that they have to meet their burden of proof and present the evidence.
However, we've never had a judge take judicial notice of jurisdiction.
No, I've had that happen. And I'm sure you have the same procedure as or similar as what we have here. When they do take judicial notice, obviously you make your objection, because for judicial notice to be taken, the proper evidence has to be provided. And if there is an objection, then there has to be a determination, obviously, on the propriety of taking, or whether it's proper to take judicial notice of something. Especially when it comes down to an element of the crime. And that's what they try to do in New Hampshire, where they try to use judicial notice to overcome an entire burden of proof on jurisdiction, on an element of the crime. You can't they're not allowed to take judicial notice of an element of the crime, and that has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not satisfied with judicial notice. So I'm glad they haven't, but I'm sure somebody will contact me and say, well, yeah, finally they did it, and yeah, I objected. But at least you'd have, serious grounds for appeal, or to have the judge recused. He's taking judicial notice of something where there's no evidence. Judicial notice is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It still has to be the evidence there. It has to be a self-evident, thing that still could be proven. Something that's self-evident can be proven still. Something that is, Mark, it's self-evident that the Earth revolves around the sun. But you can prove it. Yeah, it's still something that you can prove, and you can show the evidence, and you can get the cameras, and you can look at this. It's not, so it's totally different here. What they're trying to do with jurisdiction is they're trying to, look, I'm a crook. I don't have any evidence. Can you just take notice that I do? And that's what they're, that's really what they're doing there.
Yeah, it's something that they've got off to quite a fine art here, in terms of selling those dummies and not taking responsibility either. So they're constantly playing the seashell game between the prosecutor and the bench.
All right, now did you? I don't remember if you guys mentioned this. Did you have a motion to dismiss for a lack of evidence proving jurisdiction and a valid cause of action? And did you have that already on file? I mean, have you already filed that? Yes, you know what? We're up against the top of the hour break. Just hold tight. We'll be back here on the No Stay Project, where we're bringing about a voluntary society, one show at a time, here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. It is a January 18th edition of the No Stay Project. We'll be back live from the fortified compound in just a few moments. Don't go away. We'll hear more about Fabrice, Peter's, and Helen's adventure in legal land in England, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. I'm Marc Stevens. The website, markstevens.net, if you're having a problem with a bureaucrat like the Washington Department of Revenue that I just posted about, you can contact me at markstevens.net, markstevens@mail.com, markstevens@riseup.net, and, of course, markstevens@markstevens.net. You can also Skype me at frankrizzo3. And if you want to get into the No Stay Project Skype chat, just contact me there, and I can throw you in. So we've got Fabrice, Peter, and Helen on the line with us still. We're just finishing up their adventure in legal land there in England. So welcome back to the show, everybody.
Hey there.
Hi.
You guys all sound so jazzed to be on the show. I mean, we're still doing this.
He was asking about an application to dismiss. I did put one in for the first hearing, and he said it wasn't relevant, didn't apply to this. But
he said, well, okay. He said it didn't apply. Did you press him? Did you object and press him to explain why? Because it's a very
I
common.
did object, and he just. Yeah, I did object. He just railroaded me. He wouldn't hear nothing. He just like every time he threatened me with objecting. He said, "You're objecting too much. You're gonna have to leave the court."
So I'm gonna if you object to the way I'm doing things, I'll throw you out of the court. That's what he says. That's what this otherwise professional adult said to you.
Oh yeah. Apart from that, he's a nice man.
Yeah. Oh well.
So you can see the difference, Mark. I was going to say you can see the difference that when you have people in there, because in the appeal he was he kind of realised that he was probably going to be able to jump ship, and he said, "Well, your application to dismiss isn't very clear. I'm not sure you're getting very good advice in the construction of your paperwork, and I think you may need to go to an administrative court to get this resolved, not a Crown court."
Yeah,
and again, sort of like I said, playing the seashell game with the prosecutor again.
Yeah, classic misdirection and trying to put it off on you. They said that to me all the time. Well, Mark, I don't understand where you're going with this. I even tell them, I think you're full of crap. I don't think you have any evidence at all. I don't think you have one shred of evidence, and I know you don't have any witnesses or personal knowledge. It's pure speculation. That's where I'm going. Now just answer the question. And, of course, they don't. You would think that if someone confronts you and says, I think you're full of crap, okay, and then normal people, at least I would do it. I was, let me give you the evidence again. Maybe you didn't get it the first time, and I'd lay out the evidence. Like somebody saying, I think you're full of crap that there's no such thing as citizens of states. I can then I'll lay it out. Well, it's support is compulsory. So there's no duty of allegiance in return for duty protection, because no such duties would arise. Yeah, I know duties arise if it's done compulsively. You don't get a duty to protect somebody by threatening to kill them in the process. And they even say that there's no duty to protect. So I go through and I lay it out, as opposed to these people who, when you confront them and you ask them these questions, oh, I don't understand this, or I don't think you're making it. I think you better go back and get a real, and have a real lawyer help you out with this, because I don't understand where you're going with it. Yeah, you're full of crap. And anyone out there who thinks that the Constitution laws do apply just because of my physical location, bring the evidence, because nobody has been able to do that yet. And that's really what this comes down to, why they're doing these things. It's everything but answering what the damn evidence happens to be. So you've got to go to this agency, you've got to go to this agency, you've got to file this paperwork, you've got to go to a lawyer, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do this, do all these things, jump through 1,000 hoops. Everything but giving you evidence, facts, witnesses with personal knowledge, things of actual substance to prove that to prove their argument. And it doesn't matter what physical location we're in. You guys are getting the same stupid responses that we get here in the States.
Yeah, and Mark, sometimes you get some really outrageous ones. At one point, I can't remember exactly where in the proceedings it was. Peter asked a question, and the judge started piping up about his oath, as if I'd just called him like a tax collector or something really horrible like that. I can't remember.
I asked for are the criminal, do they abide by the criminal procedure rules?
Right.
And he said, I've got my oath of office. And that's what I wasn't asking that at all.
Yeah, he was very, very strident and, as if he'd been caused some personal offence, as if, I'll go and get it from my bag right now. It's, playing the game again, in terms of exerting their control virtually arbitrarily. And to answer the question.
If I hadn't have had been Fabrice and Helen, I think I'd have got railroaded again. I think it's very important that you have support when you do go into these proceedings.
Oh, absolutely. It's very important. When you're there on your own and there's no media, nothing like that, they're just going to be their natural vile themselves, and they're yelling and screaming, and that's just common to these people. That's how they handle these things. If you go and I, when you mention personal offense, in my experience, when you challenge them, like any psycho or sociopath or narcissist, which it's all the same kind of personality disorder. Every time you challenge them, it's taken as a personal offense. I mean, who are you? They're above us. They have this grandiose, massive ego, and who are you to question them? So it's always taken as a personal offense. Hey, what evidence do you rely on to prove this? Oh, how dare you question me? Oh, please, if it wasn't for the gun, I'd walk away laughing at you, you little jackass. But we know the only reason why we're responding at all is because of the gun.
Because of what we have in there.
This connection's getting bad.
They didn't produce the witness. They turn up at an appeal for the hearing with a witness that Peter's never heard about before. He wasn't allowed cross-examination. That's enough abuse of process to just lay out there and follow through. With a new bench and a new prosecutor, they can go and they can blame whoever they want and hopefully walk away and leave Peter alone. And that's hopefully where we're hoping to push the case. Because, the only way they can not answer the questions about jurisdiction and not provide the evidence is to treat you unfairly. Once you catch them treating you unfairly, to hold their feet to the fire time. And to do that painlessly, without them blowing their top, without them being psychos, that requires, patience and, a lot of patience and a fair amount of paperwork. And a good team,
It's part of what we have to do. I mean, that's Helen stuck with it for 9 hearings and eventually it not only got thrown out, but she got 900 pounds. Now, whether she ever gets it, we still are able to show how effective it is and how necessary it is to have the support, that people are going in as media reps and they're helping out, and you're just asking questions. And how important it is to look at this scientifically and rationally, that we're just asking them, look, we know what your argument is. We've got the argument. We want the supporting evidence, if any. And that's when you're catching them unprepared. They don't have any evidence, so they have to strike back at you with the only tools they have. They lie, they misdirect, and then they threaten. If the lying and the misdirection doesn't work, then the gun comes out. Then that's just the way it works. We're at the end of the segment. I appreciate you guys being on. Just hold on a moment. My name is Marc Stevens. It is January 18th, 2014. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back with, we got a full boat of calls still, but we got a lot to get to. So please don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment.